The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Hot topics, food, fun, entertainment, and serious business. Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.
I didn't sleep at all last night because I was so excited about my guest today.
And I didn't sleep at all last night because I fell asleep about 5 o'clock and didn't know where I was when I woke up. I had no idea where I was.
Well, we're going to start the show off with, because Oscar Goodman can talk about anything. 3-time elected mayor of Las Vegas. Currently now he is chairman of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority Host Committee.
Permanent Host Committee.
And he's going to talk a little bit about the Las Vegas Convention Center District. But since we're going to start off talking about conventions, let's talk about this report in the Las Vegas Review-Journal where they sent investigative reporters to talk about you and Convention Authority boss Rossi Rallencotter getting, chauffeured around town.
Well, the first thing we have to do, we put everything into context.
Okay.
First, we talk about the RJ, okay? I've got very little use for it. When I was first elected the mayor, I was invited to the Best of the RJ. I figured they had the best and the worst. They give out prizes, and they have a category for worst politician or best politician. And they invited me, so I figured I'm going to get the worst politician reward. I got myself a little loaded up and went out there, and everybody's out in the audience, all the big shots in town. They had their bow ties on, and I'm sitting all by myself getting braver and braver as the evening goes on. And then they finally say, and the best politician, Oscar Goodman. Well, I took a sip.
Bombay Sapphire, right?
Absolutely. Screwed up my courage. Walked up there and looked out at all the people who were out in the audience, all these big shots. And it came upon me. I said, I love being the mayor. As a matter of fact, I'm the happiest mayor in the universe. There's only one bad thing that happened since I was elected. When I was first elected, I had two little doggies at home. And now I only have one. And I don't know what to do with the other half of the paper.
No!
Well, for some reasons, since that time, if you want to call it the newspaper, hasn't been particularly good to me.
Right.
But I don't care because nobody reads it.
Exactly.
So you're talking about the story?
Yes.
You called out a story?
Yeah.
One of my sons is a JP. And he came over to the house when we came back from the Conference of Mayors. He said, Dad, did you see that story? I said, yes. He said, do you realize that at the bottom of the story, you have to get to the bottom to find out that they had a conflict of interest, that the owner of the newspaper has his own convention centers. And of course, he's going to say things about the convention center, which is a real convention center. But that's a conflict of interest, Dad. He said, can you imagine if I had two people in front of me and I hear their whole case, and right before I'm about to give the judgment, I say to him, oh, I have a conflict of interest? Why didn't I tell him in the beginning?
Right.
And that's that whole thing is a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of bull. They're so dumb. They write that I'm taken every place by a marshal or a security guard. Don't they? They're so dumb. They are really dumb reporters. They don't even know when I go from. What do they think I'm doing? I'm going to a gentleman's club. I'm going out on business to promote Las Vegas, and I always have a showgirl with me or two. That's 3 people in the car and the driver. I have a photographer with me because we have to make a record of what we're doing on behalf of the community here, and usually somebody from my office who has to make my martinis. So
Leandra made this martini. She had all the supplies.
No, she's acting today in the role of a photographer.
Yes, she's taking pictures.
3 photographers
there you go.
who are a little ill today, or maybe they have allergies too. I don't know, Rikki.
Yeah.
But
that's why my eyes are running all the time. It looks like I'm crying for happiness because
you are.
I'm happy.
We haven't seen each other in a while.
I know, right?
So we're happy, the two of us. But it's interesting because, and I'm glad you can see this over and over again, how dumb they are that they didn't even check out to see why we have to have a security officer. And you know something? It's a sick world out there.
Right.
Now, I love everybody, and a lot of people like me. But there are a couple of people out there who get up in the morning and they don't like something about me, which they're entitled to. And they're dangerous because, we have a lot of people walking around this community, unfortunately, who have mental problems.
Right.
And the security guys, they're trained to be able to cope with a problem. And it's almost like a dignitary detail that Metro would have. And when they take me around, they're looking out for my interests, and I appreciate that.
Right.
So the article was a stupid article as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
and I don't give it 2 cents worth of time. The only bad part about it is the damn article that quoted my salary, and people they're making fun of me now. They're saying, that's all you make? You should make twice that. So I put in for a raise. Wouldn't that be the ironic thing,
right,
that they're trying to hurt me, and I end up with about $500 million as a result of their stupid story.
I think it was like $72,000 or something
Oh,
like that.
don't say it. I don't want these people to know.
But here's the thing.
No, it's more than. I think it's more than that. It has
more
to be
than
more.
that?
I wouldn't work for
Well,
$72,000.
here's the thing. You've been a rich mob attorney for a long time.
Alleged mob attorney.
Alleged.
Please,
Okay.
come on, respect
All right.
what I did.
All right.
Please.
We'll get back to this because we have to do a
How did
little
we start this?
history.
How did we start
Because I asked you if you wanted to talk about the article because it was the newest thing.
I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Ha ha ha! Because honestly, it took me so long to read it.
Oh, it's a stupid
to
article.
get to the end of it to
It
go.
was dull,
what was
it was
the
boring.
point?
The only thing I liked about there were two things I liked about the article. They had a picture of Cooper. Now you don't even remember that.
No.
But Cooper is a security dog. A bomb sniffing kind of dog, and they had a little picture of him. If anybody wants to see this, read the article. It's in the left-hand corner, a picture of Cooper, the dog, a nice dog, and a very good picture of me with a showgirl and a martini in my hand. So as long as they keep on spelling my name right, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's Oscar B. Goodman.
Balin?
Boy, you're pretty darn good. You remember.
I was looking it up.
Oh,
right.
you looked it up. You're not that good. Then how long have we known each other?
Oh my gosh. Do I have to say?
No.
We go back to Channel 3
I know.
when I was a baby. I mean, I remember
You were a
doing
baby.
a show called.
By the way, you haven't changed that much.
Oh, thank you.
And
you
that's
too.
the truth. Oh,
Right.
Look, I have. When I started, I had hair, and now I have hairs.
No, you actually had an afro. I remember seeing early pictures of you in the RJ.
You always have to throw that
I do. I love that part
racist
in.
stuff in there. What's wrong with you?
He did. He had
Black Lives
he
Matter.
had a curly. He had a
Please.
curly little afro. Look that up.
That's
it's
nice.
Like really
a curly
sweet.
little afro. You couldn't
It
say a
was.
curly little white-o.
No.
Jeez.
Let's just do a real quick history lesson. Born in Philadelphia.
Right.
Tell me about your parents.
The best in the history of the world. My dad was the most legitimate guy you'd ever want to meet. He was an attorney, worked in the DA's office in Philadelphia. Very respected. I mean, made a great impression upon me. I would walk down the streets of Philadelphia with him, and people would actually, it was the day they wore hats, and they would tip their hat. Good morning, counselor. Great
Wow.
respect. And he would take me to court with him. There was one case that really made me want to become a lawyer. And I think it's a fascinating case. He represented a woman who had gone through the Holocaust. And they had put a tattoo on her arm, as they did when you were in the concentration camps. And her family wanted her to have a lobotomy to cut out that portion of her brain which remembered the experience of being at the mercy of the Nazis. And she came to my father. She says, I don't want to lose that memory because I never want to forget. And my dad defended her, and the judge ruled in her favor, saying that they couldn't force her to have the lobotomy. And I said, if a man could do that for a person, then I want to be a lawyer. And that was where that all started. And then my mother was way before her time. She got her PhD, believe it or not, when she was in her 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, she was an artist and a sculptress, and she would teach blind people how to sculpt. She would work with children who had psychiatric problems and try to get them to express themselves through their artwork. So she was very, very special. She was like a hippie. She was bohemian and did it her way. She was one of the first of her kind. And I lived in that environment. It was a great environment.
That explains how you got to be you.
Well, I'm not sure that neither of them like me that much, so I'm not sure they spend much time taking care of me. They would, on Saturday morning, they would take me down to the Philadelphia Art Museum, and that was my babysitter. They'd dump me there and then pick me up at the end of the day.
Oh, wow.
But it was safe.
Right.
I never forget, I went back to the Smithsonian, I dumped one of my children off there, they were going to arrest me for child neglect. That's how much the times had changed.
Now, how did you and current mayor, because you served 3 terms, pretty much I'm expecting the current mayor, Carolyn, to serve 3 terms.
I hope so. She wants to.
Yes, and it was so neat to see you swear her in. That was
best.
fantastic.
You realize that was American history?
Yes, yes.
It's the first time in the history of the United States of America that a spouse swore in a spouse to be sworn in as a mayor. It happened with other kinds of jobs, Congress, Senate maybe, but first time for a mayor.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
which is great.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
exciting.
So you guys got here in '64. You'd only been married a couple of years. What was the spark that made you guys to go, let's go west, young man and woman?
Well, I went to a great college, a liberal arts college called Haverford College outside of Philadelphia, and loved it. I mean, I'm the world's worst athlete, but I love sports.
Right.
So I got there and they said, can you stand? I said, I think I could stand. So I stood and they said, here's a football helmet. That was the only criteria. You didn't have to know anything. You said you had to stand. So they put a helmet on your head. So I played football there and I had a good time. I just had the best of times. And then I went to law school. Went to a great law school, Ivy League Law School, University of Pennsylvania, and hated it. I hated every single second because of 2 reasons. One, I had just gotten married and I felt horrible that I wasn't supporting my wife. She was actually working and supporting me through law school, and I didn't feel right about that. And the second reason was it was the time that the civil rights movement was really beginning. It was right at the beginning of John F. Kennedy being the president, Martin Luther King giving his great speech, Bobby Kennedy running around violating people's rights. And we had a Supreme Court that decided cases regarding the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment, the Bill of Rights, where individuals finally got Bill of Rights and were protected against a tyrannical, oppressive government. And I love that part of it, but that was so small because everything else was business-oriented. So one day I decided I'm going to do something about it. I walked the law school was the 34th and Chestnut. I walked down to Broad and Chestnut, which was the equivalent of 14th and Chestnut, 20 blocks down the city, through the city, and went to the city hall, went to the DA's office and said, you know, I really would like a job. They said, what kind of job? I said, as a clerk. They said, well, we don't have clerks. I said, well, I'll be your first clerk then. And they introduced me to Arlen Specter.
Oh, wow.
Arlen had just won the first conviction of a Teamster official in the United States, and they promoted him to the appellate division. And they said, go in and see him. If he hires you, that's fine. And I went in, I got interviewed. He said, you're hired. And he was a great teacher. He was a terrific mentor. He was a perfectionist.
Right.
And I was getting $1 an hour and happy to get it.
Wow.
And working a 40-hour week. And he really made me work, which was wonderful. And a wealthy widow was killed. And the fellows who killed her took $300,000 from under her mattress, came out to Las Vegas to launder it at the crap tables. They were arrested here and represented by Harry Claiborne, the great criminal lawyer.
Wow.
He got them out on a writ of habeas corpus. And then they went to Omaha. They were arrested for the murder. And I was assigned to going over their testimony in preparation of a motion to suppress that they had filed. And we went through the testimony, spent about 3 or 4 hours. It was a rotten night. The wind was going through the city hall. It was an old stone building, and it just cold and nasty and wet. And they said, what are you doing here? I said, where else is there? They said, the land of milk and honey. So I said, what are you talking about? They said, Las Vegas. They were always looking for young people like you. So I went home that night. I woke Carolyn up. I said, sweetheart, how would you like to go to the land of milk and honey? She said, I'm not going to Israel. She said, I'm not doing that. I'm drawing the line. But I wrote to the district attorney of Las Vegas, no such person. It got into the hands of the district attorney of Clark County, and it was Ted Marshall. And he wrote me back. He said, come on out for an interview. So we came out, and I did something interesting. I went from law office to law office on a Saturday morning in downtown Las Vegas. They had all these little storefront offices, and went in, knocked on the door, went in, and I said to the lawyers, and they were all working on Saturday morning, I said, if you were a young lawyer and you had a chance to, you know, make a name for yourself in Philadelphia or come out here and start from scratch, what would you do? And without exception, they said, come out here. The opportunities are endless. And that was it.
Right.
It was that easy.
64, you came out. What did the town look like then?
We had 70,000 people in the city of Las Vegas. We came to the top of the hill. We drove out near Boulder City and looked over the hill?
Yes.
So a couple of twinkling lights in the desert and a tumbleweed rolled in front of the car. She said, "Where the hell have you?" No, she never. Right. "Where have you brought me?" I said, "I told you, the land of milk and honey." I had never seen a tumbleweed in my life other than in a Roy Rogers movie or something like that. And it was small. I don't think there was a hotel over 2 stories high.
Wow. Because Caesar's Palace was actually built after you guys got here.
As a matter of fact, that was one of Carolyn's first jobs. She was the executive secretary at Caesar's for the bosses there in 1965, I think. We got here in 64, and I think they built it in 63 or 64, and she was one of the first executives over there. And to this day, I know that she could have been the president of Caesar's. But we started our family, and she says, "I'm not going to do that."
Because you have 4 kids who are all hugely successful.
They're the best in the world. One is at Comprehensive Cancer as an oncologist. He works day and night. He's a clinician helping people. And there's nothing like walking down the streets and saying, "You know, your son saved my life," or "Your son saved my wife's life." And because he won't talk about his cases, of course, because of HIPAA. And I don't, rightfully so. But I'm very proud of him. He also does research. And my greatest hope is that someday he'll cure cancer. And then Ross is my middle son, and Ross he was in the Marine Corps, so he has a Marine's mentality. He does everything himself. He's like a bull in a china store, but a heck of a lawyer. And now he's getting involved in the legalized marijuana, so he'll probably be richer than the old man here, which I wish that for him.
Right.
Then my younger son is Eric, the JP, and then my daughter has a very meaningful job. She's the family therapist in the burn unit and the trauma unit at UMC.
At UMC.
So that's rough work.
Yeah.
She puts a day in, but she just came back from a camp where she took her clients, and she said these people who suffered from horrible burns, they had the best 10 days of their life, and she said the most satisfying experience she ever had. So I'm really lucky. I have 6 great grandchildren. I have one who's a mathlete.
Wow, what's that?
I wish we were an athlete. He's a mathlete, somebody who was very, very good at math. He was in a national tournament. I think he ended up like 4th in the United States.
Wow.
For his age group. He's quite a student. And then I've got some who are really dumb. But I love them all. They're all terrific.
I always love to hear you talk about them, though, because I just think that people talk so badly about growing up here in Las Vegas. And I'm a native. Like, this is a terrible thing.
They had the best life.
I know, right?
They had the best life. They all went. Carolyn got a waiver of the school district because George Harris, which was down there on DI, was the exact opposite end of town from us. But she said they had a marvelous principal. So she would drive them to the school every day. And then when it got to a point where she was dissatisfied with the school system, she started the Meadows School. Right. Which really was the beginning of Summerlin, this whole area up here.
Because there was nothing out there.
Nothing here. That was the first building out here, actually.
Right.
And people moved here so their kids could go to a good school. So we've had the best of it.
Yeah.
I've had the best law practice in the world, representing all these reputed mobsters.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, see, you're right. All you had to do is ask one stupid question. I don't stop talking. You haven't asked a question. You don't do anything, Rikki. I'm getting into my movie career.
We're going to get into that because
that's the only reason I ran for mayor.
We got to talk about your clients. We got to talk about your movie career, and we've got to talk about.
Can we go back to and talk about the article in the RJ too?
No, we're done with that.
There are a couple of things I thought about.
We're going to be right back.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. So it's not a bad idea every now and then to check your battery. If you don't know how to do it, have somebody check it for you. Just a visual inspection can tell you a lot about your battery. So as we can see here, this battery's got a hold down. It's nice and tight. The cables are on. They don't look bad. We've got a cover. We don't see any corrosion. Everything's kind of tight, looking good. A little bit of dirt, that's normal, but nothing's leaking. No real cause for alarm here. So that's a good sign. Doesn't mean it's good, but at least visually we know that it's intact. Okay, so we're looking at a battery here that shows signs of corrosion. We want to test that battery to make sure it's good. Usually when they're getting like this, there's going to be a problem, leaking some acid at the top. We ran the test and we find out it has 396 cold cranking amps, but the battery requires 650. So it's just not enough. The battery is going to go soon. Better to know now than later. Okay, so the benefits of checking the cable is because this cable's rotted out. What we'll find is this is the problem, not the battery. So it'll save you from buying a battery, still having the no start, only to find out that it's a cable. This type of corrosion is common in diesels. Okay, so we're getting ready to jump the car, but we have to have some battery cables. And we have to check those too before we hook them up to the battery. So here we have our standard set of battery cables. We just look them over, see if the ends are frayed, if everything's connected all right. Everything looks good here. Wouldn't hurt to check the rest of the cable just to make sure the dog didn't get it and chew it up. We have red and black. Red's positive, black's negative. You always want to hook the positive up first and then the negative. And I'll show you how that's done right now. Keep these off to the side so they're not touching each other. Hook up your positive. You can find that right here by the plus sign, the negative sign. Plus is positive, red. Make sure that's securely hooked up. Keeping these away from each other, hook up your negative cable. Just got to fight it on there, figure out a way to get it. Wiggle it a little bit so it ensures a good connection. Now you're transferring voltage. If I hit these two together, we're going to spark. Kind of want to avoid that. Won't kill you. Kind of fun. A lot of people think if they can turn the headlights on, the battery's fine. That's not always the case. It takes very little amperage to turn a light on, but it takes a lot of amperage to start the starter. I recommend checking the charging system every oil change. At Sun Valley Automotive, there's never a charge for that. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Do you realize what she said during the break? I don't know what that thing was, but no, Rikki says she watched that thing and it drained her battery in bed. Now I don't know what the heck that means. I have no idea. Is this a pornographic station? No.
It was a YouTube movie, and you still had afro then, but I didn't see this part. I had never really seen this part of you explained before, how very strongly you feel about constitutional protections being extended to everyone, even alleged mobsters.
Of course, because if their rights aren't protected with, let's say, a good lawyer, your rights aren't going to be protected. It's all part of the same system. And I had no problem sleeping at night because the way I tried my cases, it was a rarity that I ever let a client take the witness stand. I would try my cases making sure that before the government was entitled to a conviction, they had legally seized, constitutionally, lawfully seized evidence, and they did not engage in prosecutorial misconduct. So I never had a problem. People said, how can you represent those people? That's a stupid question. How could I represent them? The same way I could represent you.
Right.
You're presumed to be innocent. That's the way the system works.
Yeah, and you were really adamant about rats.
I hate rats. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hate mice too.
Right.
But all a mouse is a little informant trying to grow into a rat. No, you know why I dislike it?
How come?
Because I've been in so many cases where they go to a lower echelon person and offer him a deal to testify against a higher person, and the deal is like giving him the candy store. And many cases where they don't even tell the defense attorney that they offered that person such a deal, and he doesn't volunteer it, so he's going to say whatever it takes to get himself walked out of there, whether it's the truth or not. And I think that it breeds perjury. I really do. I've been in too many cases where I've seen it happen, and I just don't like giving away that kind of benefit to somebody to testify against somebody else.
So you became a mob attorney, not
Alleged
intentionally.
mob attorney.
Okay, allegedly.
No, an attorney for alleged mobsters.
Okay, right, without rats. But you stumbled into this line of work. It was somebody, a pit boss, who overheard something and they made a call. And
one of my first cases, my first federal case, in the building which is now the Mob Museum, in the courtroom that Kefauver held his hearing back in 1950, Roger Foley was the judge who presided here, and I loved the man because he was a religious fellow. He used to go to church over at, I think, St. Joan of Arc at Casino Center every noontime. When we had the break, he would go there and he would pray to God to come back to do the right thing, to be merciful and to be just. And you can't get a better person than that to be a judge. And I represented a fellow who was a dealer, a card dealer, a real one, not an alleged dealer. This is a real card dealer at the Hacienda. And Carolyn, believe it or not, before they even had the word, was a counter. Naturally,
A card counter.
Naturally, she played a game with her folks called concentration when she was a little kid, and they would turn the cards over with the face down, and then they'd match them up. And her mind works that way. And she went in and played 21 with a 52-card deck, and she would take whatever we had left over from dinner, and it wasn't much, and she'd bet $10 through the whole evening, and if she won, she put it in her purse, and we would leave. And I would talk to the dealer while she was playing. I did not play because, being a young lawyer, I know that they didn't build these beautiful hotels because people were beating them. So I didn't want this guy to think I was an idiot. It's all right to think my wife's an idiot, but don't think I'm an idiot.
But you're now alleging that Carolyn Goodman, our current mayor,
yes,
was a card counter.
Well, not professionally, but
Right.
when she went and she had the ability to count cards, yes. And
See what you learn on Live Las Vegas.
well,
with
don't
Rikki
worry
Cheese?
about it. I get a phone call one day from the card dealer, and he
Right.
says, I fell upon hard times. Do you do bankruptcies? Well, I was trying to make a living, so I had a motto. Where there's a fee, there's a remedy. So I said, I sure do, and learned how to do a bankruptcy real fast. He came down, I wrote it out in longhand, charged him $250 for the cost and the whole works. I don't know what it costs anymore. And he was happy, and I was happy. Then one day, a phone call comes into the pit at the Hacienda. And the fellow says, my brother is in real trouble in Las Vegas. Who's the best criminal lawyer in Las Vegas? And the pit boss picks up the phone, and he cups it. And, nobody knows how to say, I don't know in Las Vegas. Everybody knows everything.
That is so
this
true.
guy turns around and he says, who's the best criminal lawyer in Las Vegas? And the guy I did the bankruptcy for said, call Oscar. And that's the way it all started. Wow. I won the case, and it just so happened that the brother who paid the fee was a friend of Meyer Lansky's. Mm-hmm. And when Lansky got indicted out here, making a long story short, he was indicted for skimming at the Flamingo, along with the two owners who founded the Fontainebleau down in Miami Beach, and the three of them were being tried here, and I was able to get Mr. Lansky severed out of the case and get his charges dismissed based on his health. And the prosecutor was pulling his hair out. The FBI they were going nuts because all they had were pictures, like the RJ pictures, seeing Lansky walking his little poodle on the 21st in college.
Oh my gosh, I seem to remember seeing those pictures
right,
over time. Yeah.
Exactly, and they're saying he's not sick. He's not sick.
Yes.
But Judge Foley found that he was sick. The other two guys were found guilty, and they had the world's best lawyers. They had Edward Bennett Williams.
But they didn't have you.
No, I was a little punk at the time, wet behind the ears. But they had Edward Bennett Williams from Washington, D.C., maybe the finest ever, one of the finest for sure, and Bill Hunley, who became Robert Kennedy's right-hand man. So these were real lawyers. And they were, Mr. Cohen and Mr. Landsberg were both sentenced to a year and a day, I believe, in prison. And I get a phone call. It's a very interesting story, I think. It says a lot about Las Vegas at the time. This is about 1970, 69 or 70. And it's from the prison. Mr. Sam Cohen would like to speak to you. I said, okay. I said, hi, Mr. Cohen, how are you? He says, fine, Mr. Goodman. He says, could you do me a favor? I said, I'm very hesitant to be talking to you because you have a great lawyer. You should be talking to him, not me. He says, well, this is something a little different. I told him I'm going to give you a call. I said, what could I do for you? He said, when I went to trial, my mother didn't even know I had been indicted, let alone stood trial, let alone been found guilty, let alone been sentenced to prison. My elderly mother didn't know any of this. And she had the Jewish Passover Seder every year, and I never missed it. And when she has it this year, if I'm not there, there's no telling what's going to happen to her. She won't understand it. She'll get sick over it. So I said, what could I do for you, sir? He said, could you get me out for a day? So I went to Judge Foley, and I said, Judge, he said, maybe we should have the prosecutor in here. I said, not on this one, Judge. I don't think so. Could have gotten disbarred for it, but I said, I don't think so. And I told him the story. In front of me, he picks up the phone, calls the prison, and says, I want this man released for 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
They let Mr. Cohen out. He goes to the Passover dinner. Mother never knew the difference. goes back to jail, surrenders himself the next day.
Wow.
Is that a great story?
That is a great story.
It's a great story because it shows what people can do.
Right.
And that's why I love being a lawyer. You could do, you know, everybody thinks that when Shakespeare said, I think it was in Henry V or VI, he said, let's kill all the lawyers first. That was a compliment to lawyers, because what he was saying there, you get rid of the lawyers, then the tyrant can do whatever he wants. It's the lawyers who stand in the way. And it's true. A good lawyer can do a lot of good for little people and big people, for black people and white people. It doesn't matter. If he treats everybody decently and applies the law uniformly, you can do a lot of good for everybody.
Now, of course, there's like a lot of famous names, mobster names that people
Alleged
recognize.
mobsters.
I keep making that mistake.
Well,
Alleged mobsters.
how was I supposed to make a living calling them mobsters?
That's true. Lefty Rosenthal.
You didn't call him Lefty to his face.
That's what I heard. Let's go down the lines of some of these folks. I can't even read my own writing.
Well, that's not my fault. Have you been drinking too? Maybe I could read it for you.
No, I haven't. Well, so you name some of them off for me.
Well, of course. Please. Well, it's great. It was a town. It's interesting, because I'm going to give a talk on this someday. It was a town that dealt in nicknames.
Yes.
Now, you didn't necessarily call the person by his nickname, but if he was out of your presence and you referred to him, there was a little fella. I shouldn't call him little fella. There was a fellow who was not too tall.
Right.
A little person. Okay. It's okay to call him a little person. And I represented him, and they called him the midget.
Okay.
His name was Bobby, and this was one of the great stories too. Bobby allegedly was calling sports line information from Las Vegas around the country to different people who were in betting and bookmaking.
Right.
Because the Las Vegas line was the important line. And the FBI, like the reporters from the RJ, were taking pictures of little Bobby outside the Churchill Downs, which was a race and sports book on the Las Vegas Strip. And there was a payphone there. People don't even know what payphones are anymore. And he couldn't reach the phone, so he had to jump up. And he's putting in dimes into the phone to make his phone call. And they have pictures of him jumping up and jumping up. And Bobby gets subpoenaed in front of the grand jury.
Right.
And he comes to me to represent him. And I said, Bobby, I want you to come out after every single question. When they ask you your name, come on out and I'll tell you what to do. Promise. I said, I'm telling you, I'm going to walk out of here if you're not coming out after each question. So I said, when you come out, I'm going to tell you to take the fifth.
Right. Because
they had these pictures of you. They want to get you. They want to break you and have you testify against some big shots. I'm going to tell you to take the fifth. So Bobby goes in. And I'm sitting out waiting for him, looking at my watch. 5 minutes goes by. 10 minutes goes by. 25 minutes. I'm steaming. Right. I'm so hot. And out walks Bobby. I said, what did you do? What were you in there for? He says, don't worry, Oscar. I took the 2.5. Okay, so that was Bobby.
Right.
Then they had a little fella at Caesars. He wasn't so little. He just had a little arm. You know, he had one of those unfortunate thalidomide type arms, I believe. And they called him Wingy. And, you know, not to his face.
Right.
And then there were a fella who owned the Tower of Pizza. Remember that?
Yes.
At the end of the strip there. And
I just had a conversation about that the other day.
Poor guy had a hunchback, and they called him the Camel. I mean, it was those kind of names. Tony, they called him the Ant.
Right. Now, how did he of all of your clients, and here's the thing, a lot of people don't realize you've done celebrity clients, you've done politicians, you've done all kinds of people. It's just that these ones, especially the ones who are connected to the movie Casino, are the ones that people know the most about. And probably, I think, more pictures were taken of you with your afro, with Tony the Ant.
You're brutal with this. What is that? What is that word I should use?
It's so cute. You're so cute.
A euro.
Like, yeah, right. Okay, I'll start trying to use the alleged. It's
this
the
is
alleged
getting very annoying.
euro,
you know,
right?
This is going to turn into a racist thing
come
here.
Back on my
I'm
show.
getting a little fed up with this whole thing.
But here's the thing: Tony was about this big.
Yes.
And
see,
but
if he were alive, you wouldn't say that.
Exactly. But what I always loved, and I would always tell people growing up here in Las Vegas, this is what always impressed me: that you were just the most spectacular alleged. A representative of alleged mobsters. You know, you didn't get everybody off.
I didn't.
But, you know, I mean, some people
That was what
ended
you
up,
were thinking about last night when your battery ran out. You didn't get to the end of the answer.
Oh, God. Oh.
This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. An African American blushing. This is unbelievable. This is something I've never seen before.
And see, we haven't even hung out together for such a real long time. I had forgotten that we could riff like this.
Well, stop crying.
Right. It's like I'm in tears. It's not even my allergies. I'm in tears.
I better cry.
So what I always loved about Tony the Ant, which, can you tell us how he got that nickname, the Ant?
Well, his name is Anthony. I guess it's a good name to call Anthony the Ant. But no, he was a diminutive.
Okay, and then also I found out this morning, he used to own a gift shop inside Circus.
Yeah, he came out here. He didn't want any trouble.
Right.
I know what they say about him. He killed 26 people. Well, according to them, every one of my clients killed 26. Never 27, never 20, always 26. 26. That was a magic number. Right. He comes out here. He buys the gift store. It was called Anthony Stewart because his wife's maiden name was Stewart. And he paid $70,000 to Jay Sarno, another one of my clients.
Right. Who built Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's Palace. He was the great designer of Caesar's and built Circus way before its time. And he gave him $70,000 for the lease agreement there. And then, of course, the FBI came in and they started talking to the gaming authorities, and they said, get this guy out of your hotel. So instead of making a legitimate living, they forced him to get out of the hotel. But Tony was no dummy. He charged the hotel $700,000 to get out of the contract. Okay, so that's not a bad profit, $630,000 for a little fella.
Well, what I always loved about his story too is that, he was facing all. You kept him out of jail.
That's one thing that I did do.
Didn't keep him out of that cornfield.
No.
Whoever finally took him out.
Well, it was a terrible shame. Sometimes you know things without knowing them, and I tried murder cases representing Tony, racketeering cases, the Black Book, all these things, and I spent a lot of time with the guy, and we would go out of town for many of these trials: Kansas City, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and we would stay in hotel rooms, and he always took the room next to mine, and he had a terrible habit. He loved to have company when he had his coffee in the morning, so every day about 4 o'clock there was such a racket in his room. He woke me up and then came in with coffee for me so he could have coffee. And you know your client's habits when you're with them that long. I have clients who I am absolutely convinced to a moral certainty probably were sniffing or snorting, whatever you call it, cocaine lines. But I never saw Tony do that. The movie portrayed him that way. I never saw that part of him. He liked to have a drink every once in a while, no question about that. But I never saw him use drugs. The movie, the Pesci role was, in my opinion, less accurate than the De Niro role. Okay. De Niro played Rosenthal to a T, whereas Pesci, they took some license with it, which they were entitled to in a movie. Right. But it's a shame because with me, people say, how could you represent a guy like that? The truth of the matter is, I wish all my clients were as nice as him. Right. It's amazing how many people you meet who don't say good morning to you. I make a point out of stopping by Leandra's office every single morning. I call her General. She was a sergeant in the Air Force, but the way she treats everybody around there, she deserves to be called General. I say, good morning, General. And when she does something for me, I say thank you. When I ask her to do something, I say please. It's amazing how many big shots don't do that, and they're not worth 10 cents as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Let's talk about your passion for downtown.
I love downtown.
How did that get started? Was that something that happened, you and Carolyn, when you first got here? You already fell in love with downtown?
No, it was interesting. I wasn't in politics. I was busy being a lawyer, and I ran for mayor. I got it. Remember where we are,
right?
Because I have to tell you about my movie career.
Right, exactly. Well, let's talk about your movie career really quickly, because
I want to tell people.
Everybody talks about Casino, but
you've been in a lot of movies. I've been in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
What was the erotic thriller?
I'm going to tell you. Oh, you're ruining my stories now. No, this is Casino comes out.
Right.
I loved it.
Right.
I mean, I absolutely loved being with De Niro and Pesci and Sharon Stone, Pileggi and Scorsese. They came over to the house for dinner. I mean, it was great. I loved every single second. The movie comes out. My mother calls me up, may her soul rest in peace, and she said, Oscar, I saw your movie, and it's a good thing you're a lawyer. Well, apparently,
I thought you were great.
I did too. I imagine everybody agreed with my mother because I wasn't getting any parts.
Right.
So I said to my wife and 4 children, I said, you know, I'm going to do something different. I said, I've been practicing law for 35 years actively. What do you have in mind, Dad? I said, I'm going to run for mayor. They took a vote. Carolyn abstained. The 4 children voted 4-0 against me. I said, why? They said, Dad, there's no way you can win. You have more baggage than the sky caps out of the Karen.
Right.
Well, now I know why I hate the RJ so much. I filed, and that Sunday I went down to my driveway and picked up the stinking RJ and took it to our little dinette area and opened it up. And the editorial was, anybody but Oscar for mayor. Can you imagine getting involved in politics with that? And then, of all places, San Francisco, the Chronicle, San Francisco, a place you can't even see their stupid bridge because all of the air pollution and the fog. Their Chronicle comes out, Las Vegas should not elect the barrister to butchers. So this is the way I got into politics. But I won. I get sworn in, and I go to our permitting department, and I say to the woman who's in charge, I said, ma'am, I'm your new mayor. She said, nice meeting you, sir. And I said, I have a directive for you. I didn't realize that it's a manager form of government, and I thought the mayor was supposed to be like Boss Tweed and boss everybody around. And she says, well, what do you want? I said, if anybody wants to make a movie in Las Vegas, they have to give me a part. She says, you've got to be kidding. I said, no, I'm the mayor. So 2 weeks go by. The secretary says, Mr. Goodman, guess what? I said, what? She said, Jackie Chan is out here. And Chan comes in. I said, send the gentleman right in. Mayor, I can't believe what we just were told, that for us to make Rush Hour 2 in Las Vegas, you have to have a part. I said, absolutely. It's a great part. I was at the Desert Inn before they imploded it. I was with Alan King, Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker. Terrific part.
Right.
Cutting room floor. I said, get this Chan on the phone. I said, Chan, do you realize who I am? He said, yeah, you're the mayor. I said, no. Do you realize where I came from, Mr. Chan?
Oh.
He says, no. I said, well, I represented, I did not call him reputed. I said, I represented every mobster in America. And you have, you shouldn't sleep too soundly, Mr. Chan. Well, apparently I impressed him because I am in the DVD. Next one is Ocean's 11, the sequel.
Right.
I'm with Wayne Newton, right. Danny Gans, Siegfried and Roy. I mean, huge cutting room floor. So I went to our city attorney and I said, Mr. Jervik, I have a directive for you. He says, what? I said, I want you to draw up an airtight contract that if, in fact, we give them a permit and they pretend to give me a part, if I'm on the cutting room floor, I can enjoin the movie from being shown. He said, you can't do that. I said, I can. I'm the mayor. Next movie is what you were talking about. Angel Blade.
Yeah.
Had the contract signed. They told me it was going to be an exotic thriller. It turns out it's an erotic thriller. And ladies and gentlemen, I am in that movie. But I've been in Looney Tunes, which I think was my life story. I've been in a lot of them. Well, CSI, you know, right. 3 CSIs, yeah, three Las Vegases.
How did the whole showgirl Bombay Gin, because as long as I've known you, you've always been, you know, I've known you since you've been an attorney forever and ever and ever. Then once you became the mayor, what was the impetus for that, for you having the showgirls and the Bombay Gin? And
as a lawyer, everybody was scared of me because of the people that I represented. As the mayor, I was able to go out and have a good time, talk to people, not worried about being wired, not worried about, you know, having a rat come into my office, that kind of thing. So I did all the things I liked. I liked to drink to excess. And Bombay Sapphire offered me $100,000, $50,000 for the homeless, and $50,000 for students who could not afford their tuition at the Meadows School. And I figured it's a great way to do a public service. So I'm drinking to a point that my liver really does begin to quiver about 5 o'clock if it hasn't been satiated. And with the showgirls, you know, I've always loved pretty women. That's why I married one. And since I couldn't be with her all the time, I figured I'd have two to take her around all the time. But Carolyn has been the best. She comes into my, she still does, even though she's the mayor, she comes into the bedroom every morning into my side of the bed and applauds to start me. And it's a wonderful marriage. 55 years.
55 years.
55 years of being married to the same beautiful woman.
Yeah.
She's the best.
Yeah.
If this show is not syndicated, then whoever is watching this is stupid.
We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about his passion for downtown Las Vegas, which I share. Stay tuned.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tip's about tire maintenance, how to check a tire, how to fill it properly. Okay, so as we can see, we've got a low tire. We probably saw that a month ago and said we'll fill it, but like everything, we let a day go by. Next thing you know, we got a problem. Properly check a tire, remove the valve cover, got a tire gauge, simply put it on there, and it'll read the pressure down at the bottom in PSI, pounds per square inch. We can see here that this is so low it's barely reading. There's probably 10 pounds in it at best. So how do we properly inflate it? Well, we're going to need an air chuck. Go down to the local store or come by the shop. We'll use this tool to inflate it. And that sounds like that's all we need to do. But we need to know how much to inflate it to, because overinflated is just as bad as underinflated. We can look at the tire, and on here we're going to find a cold pressure rating rated in PSI. And it's going to say anywhere from 32 to 80 pounds depending on the vehicle. We'll want to find that so we know the maximum inflation cold. We're going to look until we find the load rating. And here we find the maximum PSI is 44 PSI, pounds per square inch cold. We don't want to fill it any more than that, but we don't want to underfill it either. We want to fill it to 44. So it seems like checking the air pressure is no big deal. It's not. It's really simple to do, but we want to make sure we got the correct pressure. How do we find that? Let me show you. We open the door and we locate the sticker. It's usually right here. It could be down on the lower rocker, but it's on the driver's side. And after we look around, we'll see right here it says 35 PSI. That's the pressure that the tire requires that was sold with the vehicle. But if you change the tires later to a high-performance tire, mud and snow or anything else, look at the cold pressure on the side of the tire to make sure you're properly inflated. This could be 35 today, but we get a performance tire, it's 44, 45, or even higher. We'll want to make sure we're inflating the tire properly. A couple of things you're going to need if you're checking your own tires: tire gauge and a rag, because you are going to get a little dirty. If you don't want to do that, I don't blame you. Bring it to the shop, we'll check it for you. We'll do a whole inspection on the vehicle if you like. We'll check the tires, make sure you're safe. This can save you a lot of time and keep you safe. Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Thanks a lot.
What is this, 2 against 1? It's unbelievable.
Well,
I'm not doing that good.
every so often, I love to share, when I have somebody so special on, I like to share it with someone else who's been here in Las Vegas a long time. Lock Fortune, who has his own show here at WWDB.TV. I could tell because he actually wanted to be on the show.
He is.
And he was just sort of like,
was dying to be on the
He's
show.
on the show. Don't
yeah.
give it to
Because at first I said, oh, I'm going to have...
I was living for it.
Right.
Now you're
I said,
talking.
I was
I'm
living.
going to have Oscar
You told
on,
me about that
and we're
Euro
not going to
stuff. I
have
like
any
that.
time. And so it's like, oh, come on down, and let's share. He's been here since 60...
60?
No,
I wish.
70.
Well, no. In Las Vegas, I
Yes.
got here in the 80s.
Oh, you got here in the 80s.
Which was a very fascinating point when I was listening to the two of you talk, because I love talking about old Las Vegas and everything. And you mentioned the new mob museum used to be a courthouse. Well, you guys know, as far as I know, it was always a post office.
Well,
it was a post office.
Post office and courthouse.
Right. I never knew it was a. I just learned about the courthouse thing just
on the
now,
lobby
because
floor,
that's what you know. You're talking to
on the lobby floor, he would know about this. They had the little post boxes still, where people would come down and actually get their mail out of a numbered box. Sounds a little bit like a skim. But, no, they would do that, and then upstairs on the second floor they had courtrooms, and that's where, as I said, the Kefauver hearing. Estes Kefauver, who was the senator from Tennessee, began to investigate organized crime. To that point in time, J. Edgar Hoover said there's no such thing as the mafia, no such thing as organized crime, and he was trying to run for president. And he went to 14 different cities. This was the last one in 1950, and he held his hearing in the courtroom there, and that's where I tried my first federal case.
Wow. Well, I will admit, and I always admit this, you guys know I'm open about this. When you first started taking a look and concentrating on downtown Las Vegas, I remember thinking that you were kind of cruel to the homeless.
That's wrong.
I know it was, because just recently,
now
recently.
I'm getting hot at you.
Okay, right. Well, are you getting hot?
At or for.
Right. But a few years ago, maybe about 3 years ago, I found myself standing at 9th and Fremont with kids and dogs, and I felt safe. And I thought, man, when I was a kid, there was no way you could stand at Ninth and Fremont and not get, some crack person or get shot.
I was not mean to the homeless, although I did receive I guess it can't be an award. It's probably the opposite of what a reward would be from a group in Washington, D.C. who had never been out here. They said I was the meanest mayor in America because of the way they perceived my treatment of the homeless. But it's absolutely wrong.
Right.
Here we go with the RJ again.
Yeah.
Absolutely wrong. I always said that the city had a duty and a responsibility to take care of those who couldn't take care of themselves.
Exactly.
Always said that.
Yes. I
said I have no tolerance for those people who are able-bodied and sound of mind, who are basically perpetrating a fraud on the public when they stand on the corner instead of getting a job for whatever and say that they're homeless. They make more money than all three of us combined because people in Las Vegas are superstitious and they won't pass one of these people without giving them a couple bucks if they're going to be going out gambling, because they feel if they don't give them any money they're going to lose gambling. So those people I have no tolerance for.
Right.
And I said, there's a building. This is like my first or second council meeting. I said, there's a building that's perfect where we could house the homeless.
Right.
We could give them a commissary. We could give them medical treatment. We could give them a social treatment. We could have psychologists there. And it was the prison in Jean.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all prison is a building with bars.
Right.
I said, take the bars out. Put these people there. Let's make them useful citizens again. The ones who can't take care of themselves, let's get them on meds. Let's make sure that they can come back into society. So I don't consider myself mean, but the stinking Review Journal, the day after I said that, the headline in the stinking newspaper was Mayor wants to send people to prison.
Right.
Now, I mean, that's yellow journalism. That stinks. And, it continues. I guess time doesn't change anything in this city.
Well, but it also, in retrospect, I realized it shined a light on an underlying problem in this community. Las Vegas is so giving and loving in so many ways.
Very empathetic.
However, nobody wanted to step up and take a look at this and actually tell folks, look, you can't stay on the street anymore. There are programs.
The problem, Rikki, is that I spent all my time downtown when I was the mayor, and I would go over to Four Master, where you know that very well. Where Channel 3 is down the street, and there was just a camp of homeless people, and they were right next to the Anderson Dairy. It was right about the time that the Jack in the Box folks had the problem with the E. coli, and I'm saying to myself, what would happen to Las Vegas if we have an E. coli problem? Because of the milk that's being distributed from Anderson to the hotels. These people had their needles down there. They were dirty. It was horrible. I mean, feces and urine all over the place. So I did move them. I don't care. They said I'm a mean mayor because I moved them. I had to get them out of there. I had to get them away from there. But what I wasn't able to do, because they didn't want to do it, even though we formed triages, we went down there with social workers, with city employees, with Metro, and we're so nice to these people. And we said, right across the street we have Catholic Charities.
Yes.
We've got the Salvation Army.
Right.
We've got the Mission. They're ready to give you a bed, a shower, a job. I couldn't get them to walk across the street because I can't tell you they like their lifestyle, but I'm going to tell you they like their lifestyle. They did not want to change it. You were not going to change that. Now my wife, she's talking about a camp.
Right.
I wish everything Carolyn wants, I wish it happens, because it's all for the right reason. There's no way in the world it's going to work. But you have to learn these things yourself. You got to take a shot, because nobody's been able to solve the problem yet.
Yes. Now the core of the downtown is one thing, but what you did and what you guys together have done with what used to be the Union Pacific property is amazing.
Well, which we now call Symphony Park.
Right.
It is amazing. It could not be done by the city itself. It certainly couldn't be done by one person. But I learned a good lesson, that in order to do anything as the mayor, you really have to work with the private sector or with nonprofits, or else nothing gets done. So I went to my good friend Larry Ruvo, who was talking about building a facility in memory of his father, who passed away from Alzheimer's. and Larry had Southern Wine and Spirits all the way out of 215 and Jones, and he was had the land there. He had an architect who designed the building. I said, Larry, you got to do me a favor. What? I said, I need a keystone or a cornerstone for a downtown development. It was then called Union Park, or what is now Symphony Park. He says, well, what could I do? I said, can you build your facility there? And as a favor to me, that's one thing I did do.
Wow.
As a favor to me, he said, I'll do it. And we went down to speak to Frank Gehry. Mm-hmm. Gehry is if not the world-class architect, a world-class architect.
Right.
Everybody who passes the building takes a picture of it. And convinced him to come up here and design the building. And now we have a building that is treating Alzheimer's, other neurodegenerative diseases.
Doing research?
Unbelievable research, working with the NFL on concussions, with World Boxing on concussions. I mean, they're doing things that people would never dream would happen in Las Vegas. They have a waiting list miles long. I know Carolyn's trying to beg them to build another facility down there to be able to take care of all the people who want to come. So that's been phenomenal. Smith Center Performing Arts, they stepped up. They gave the city $250 million. We chipped in the rest, and people, the rich people. Well, I don't want my tax-paying dollars to pay. I said, don't worry about it. Well, I don't want my tax-paying. So I said, well, if you don't like it, then, I have a 4-year term. Vote for somebody else. We're going to have a beautiful performing arts building. Well, we have the opening night for the arts building. And the same people were going, Mayor, this is the most beautiful building I've ever seen in my life. Thank you so much for doing it. I said, go away. Let me go. I mean, but that's what you get. They don't want what tax dollars is to make a city a better place. Why don't people realize that? We don't put it in our pocket. But that was that. Then we had a Children's Discovery Museum. Yes. Had the stinking IRS building there. I mean, if you like the IRS, you shouldn't be watching this program.
And their parking sucks. If you want to talk about parking, it's the worst.
Forget about it. You got to be a genius to get in and out of there without dinging your car.
Locke and I were talking. A lot of people, many people probably don't realize that you have been trying to organize the sports, big-time sports here for a long time before the Raiders.
For the first,
yes.
For the first 2 weeks during my term, I went back to New York and met with Gary Bettman of the NHL. He had no problem with Las Vegas as far as us having racing sports books. They didn't have an expansion team, so that was the end of that discussion. David Stern said, over my dead body, will I allow the NBA to have a franchise there? And when we had the All-Star game here, the first city ever to have a franchise.
That was
he came up
very
to my
great
office.
Opportunity.
He said, the ball's in your court. I said, what does that mean, Commissioner? He said, if you can convince the owners to bring a team here, I'm not going to stand in your way. Adam Silver, who's the new commissioner, he's great. He loves Las Vegas, loves Carolyn. And we'll have an NBA franchise, particularly with T-Mobile here. We have a facility. We've
got a great facility.
We're going to have Major League Baseball here. And Manfred is saying, Las Vegas really is a pretty nice place. With the
we finally got the right size market to really attract them and to get them in.
Not only that, but we have the other owners. Yes. Yeah, well, look, Jerry Jones probably was the best spokesperson to bring the NFL here. He says Las Vegas is a great city. You don't beat that. I mean, Jerry Jones is probably the most powerful, influential guy in the NFL. So we have all these things, and then of course Mr. Foley comes along with the Golden Knights, Vegas Golden Knights.
Las Vegas Golden Knights.
He comes along with that. He did it right. This is a guy, unlike the group that's trying to get Major League Soccer here, which we wanted so very, very badly, that didn't want to spend 2 cents. Foley put some money out there, got good marketing, good advertising, got the public excited about it. He did it right. He deserves every good thing that's going to happen as a result of having it. But we should have Major League Soccer here had those people.
I still think that's going to be. I think it's the draw. It's natural. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It would bring in so many people. When we were coming back from Miami, just about everybody on the plane, both ways.
This is at the mayor's conference.
Yes, just last weekend, 2 days ago. Everybody, not everybody. I'd say a good 70% of the people on the plane came from a foreign land.
Wow.
And they were coming to Las Vegas or going home from Las Vegas. And it'd be a horrible thing if they start banning people and not allowing tourists to come here because, let me see, I have my stats with me.
It's down so much now already.
Because stats here.
And it's big enough I could read that.
19% of our overall visitation comes from international clients. That's a lot of, almost 20%. 31%, they spend 31% of the money. So what people have to realize, is a. I may have all the facts wrong. I'm not good on facts.
The general is smiling, so it must be okay.
I don't know. No, I can't read, and I don't know facts, so I don't know why I'm even here, to be honest.
I can't read my own writing. At least you've got like big numbers.
But here's a good one. Huh. This is one that will get to the people. Where is this stupid fact? I read this. Oh, this is the greatest. Without tourism, listen to this, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. I'm going home. Every household in southern Nevada would pay approximately $2,700 more in taxes. So you better protect the golden goose and not let anybody mess around with something that works, like the greatest convention center in the history of the world that brings in more trade shows for the last 23 years than any other city in the history of the world. And I tell you, because I've been out and about on behalf of the convention authorities, that there is nothing like the brand of the showgirls representing Las Vegas, the Queen of England, and I love the old lady. The Queen of, she's the best. The Queen of, the second best. The Queen of, my wife's the best. The Queen of England could be walking down one side of the street, the showgirls walking down the other side. Everybody's taking pictures of the showgirls. It represents us. And somebody wants to come along and start screwing around with something that has made this city the greatest city in the history of the world, with the greatest lifestyle in the history of the world. Somebody has to be really, really sick.
One of the things one of the things I tell people now, because I grew up here, and I just thought my parents were so mean that they, growing up at Nellis, it was all dirt outside of the base, and it was just horrible. It was like, it was windy and dusty, and
What are you doing on the show?
I know, right?
I never heard you talk before.
and so
She talks.
I would run into people who would come here, because we went to the Chicago influx and the New York influx, and people always came in and they were being like, oh, Las Vegas, but once gaming spread, and then once the city started growing, now it's like, ooh, you're from Las Vegas, now we're rock stars.
That's the truth. The great thing is people smile when they arrive at our airport.
Yes.
And even if they drop a couple bucks while they're here, they're smiling when they're going home.
Yes.
They can't wait to tell their friends about the great time that they had. There's nothing like it.
The Vegas experience.
And I say this, when Carolyn's down at the Conference of Mayors, and when I used to be a mayor and go down there, and we would hand out our little chip, our good luck chip.
Right.
I had a $100 chip with my picture on it. She has a $1,000 chip. That's why she ran for mayor. So she able to show me.
Hey, she gave me a chip. Mine isn't worth $1,000.
Yes, a yellow chip.
Yeah,
it sure is.
Is it really?
You bet it is.
Oh, I didn't even look at it that closely.
And the way you're treating me with the Safro stuff, I hope that when you go and you try to pass it, that you get arrested. And I will not represent you, because you are a criminal, not an alleged criminal.
Yes.
I gotta cry. Okay, we have to go.
On that note, His Honor has somewhere else to be. We didn't even get to talk about your restaurant, so you have to.
It's a great restaurant. No, well, you come on down to. We should do a show from the restaurant. Why don't you bring?
Yes.
You bring all this
yes. That'd be
maybe
wonderful.
that's where we should do the show. You don't have to pay rent to these people here.
Right.
It's a wellness center.
Just so
Mine is a drinking center.
Your last one, just really quickly. The title was fantastic, and yours always sell out.
What, Oscars, Beefs, and Broads?
Yeah.
It is a great title. It really is. A couple of women objected to the beef part. We're out of here.
It's like, where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
The man has places to be. His chauffeur and the whole entourage of like 100 people are behind the camera to just rack up those taxpayer dollars, so we're not going to turn the camera around. But we are so glad that we had Oscar Goodman here on
Rikki,
our
this
show
is a pleasure.
today.
I don't know where you've been.
I know, right?
Yeah,
we
glad.
could hang out at Walmart more often.
That's the truth. Nothing wrong with that. Walmart's cool. You got to be old to go there, but it's cool.
You can see this show anytime you want to on WWDB TV. I'm going to go home and watch it again because I can't believe
that's
it.
the beauty of digital.
What station?
WWDB TV.
Worldwide Digital Broadcast.
Do I have that on my TV?
Right?
Yes, it's right on your Roku or your Fire Stick.
Yeah.
You can watch this live.
And we're going to send you.
How do I get this on my TV?
We're going to send you a
on
link.
Roku or Fire Stick. Amazon Fire Stick or Roku.
I don't know what that is.
You have a smart TV?
If you have a smart TV.
I have a smartphone.
You can get a smartphone
But you have a smart wife, so she'll tell you how
the two of us are not the best when it
I'm
comes
sending
to...
the general a link to the show.
We're going to have a link for the show. So
the
Landry will
and, and I'm
Can we
going
put it
to
on
have
our
it
TV?
on.
Yes, sir.
I'll have
do
it on
that?
my website.
It's broadcast quality, yes.
If you can access YouTube
Oh,
or
forget about it.
Right. We'll explain it on my social media. So make sure you log on to my Facebook. We're going to send you a link that you can put it on your Facebook or Twitter page. The general will
Let's put it this
handle
way,
all
Rikki,
the details.
you know what the greatest is?
What is that?
It wasn't until recently, and this is the truth, that people were inviting me to be on LINK or something.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
I thought it said... I had no idea what it said. Lincoln. I had no idea what. I have no idea. But I don't join. I'm not. Doing it. No, I don't like people.
The mayor's got to go, and we're so glad he was here.
Yes.
And that's it. Thank you. The entourage is getting up because the mayor's got to go.
Are you on now?
We're gonna. Yeah,
I was.
still on.
Yeah, I had it
Yes.
on before,
Right.
but no, not. But I did.
If we don't wrap up, the general is going to take her purse and bop me with it. We're going to post this on social media. You can see this again. I want to see it again.
I want to
and
find
we're
out
going to
what
have
social
him on
media
the show again.
I'm gonna find out what
And
social
he's
media.
getting ready to go.
We're going to launch an
Live Las
investigation.
Vegas with Rikki Cheese. We'll have the mayor on again. We promise.